hide. That's weird. I'm sharing it. Okay, let me close this. Let's try again. A window. Where's my PowerPoint? It's not on the list. Okay, sorry. Let's try this again. Okay, so view, reading view.
For all you just coming in now, we're just giving some people some extra minutes to join us. We'll start shortly.
How's that?
Great.
Perfect.
Okay, so I need to see the chat because I'm going to be asking you guys to type stuff into the chat. And all right, and can you see the screen change?
Yes.
Okay, great. We're all set.
All right. So let's give people another 4 minutes and then we'll get started.
Sure. If you guys want to do some intros and jump in the chat, let us know where you're joining us from, or we can do that instead of just sitting here for the people who are already in here.
Anywhere here we haven't met yet? Nelly, where are we seeing you from?
I am in New York City.
Where?
I'm on the Upper West Side and in my co-working space right now at Columbus Circle.
Oh, very nice. I'm not far away from you.
Yeah, where are you?
I live in Washington Heights, so that's 186th, and now I'm in the office, which is next to the World Trade Center. So.
Oh wow, all the way on the other.
Yes, yes. I crossed by you.
Nice. I live on 72nd Street, so it's not for me. It's just a walk.
Oh, nice.
How about everybody else? So we have Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Change starters. I think Julie, we've met before.
I feel like we have. I don't know if it was, but I definitely know your name, but I'm like, I can't recall if we've had a video call or.
Yeah, I think we did. We did have a video call, and
or was it with my CEO?
Yes,
I'm not sure.
Yes. We were talking about doing a partnership. Yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
When do you remember when that was? Because we made a pivot at the beginning of the year.
Yes, it was very early on. So it was probably before that.
Okay. Yeah, we're definitely doing something different now and much more fun and exciting, I think. So.
We should. I should look at your website and see what you guys are doing now.
the short of it is we created a no-code platform for NFT solutions. So basically, you don't need any technical expertise or know-how or knowledge of blockchain to launch an NFT collection. It's just do it yourself, point and click. Very easy.
That is very different. Well, that's the life of a startup, and we'll talk a lot about that today. And John, thanks for introducing yourself. Are you also in New York City?
I am a New Yorker, born and bred, but no, I live in Austin. I've been here 13 years.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so we're exciting. I'm working off a divine inspiration that came to me back in 2016, and we're just about to finish the app. I started working on it again in 2019, and we formed a nonprofit, and we formed a tech firm. And yeah, we just went through an accelerator in the last 6 months, and now it's getting exciting. We're starting to see some big prospective clients, which is really cool.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, Austin is one of the cities we're considering for moving.
Yeah, I moved here in June 2009, and the cover story of The Economist magazine was, "Will Texas replace California?" And it was just about 1 million people here. And now we're over 2 million. We're number 11 city in the United States. And it's just like, It's insane. This
Well,
growth
post the
I've seen.
pandemic, everybody from San Francisco seems to have moved down to Texas. So
California, New York, and maybe one other state, maybe Illinois, are probably the biggest population incoming for 10 years straight. I mean, I was in real estate for 5 years here, and the average was between 155 and 185 people per day moving here.
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I think we can get started. We have a decent amount of people, and then anybody else can I'll make sure to admit them so they are not distracting. So just to give you a quick intro, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, Nelly, because you are the expert here. So Nelly is going to give us a masterclass on how to find product market fit quickly. I don't know if you got a chance to read her bio, but Nelly is a CTO with over 18 years of experience. She's also the creator of Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs. She spoke and presented for many organizations like Women's Enterprise Center, Founder Institute, SaaS Academy, Black in Tech, GSV Bootcamp, and WeWork Labs. So we're super excited that Nelly agreed to do this for us and our founders, and looking forward to this masterclass. So go ahead, Nelly. I'll turn it over to you, and I will disappear into video link the clouds here.
Thank you, Julie. We have a workbook for this session. I created it so that you don't have to take a ton of notes. So if you want to go and download that, check it out. And let's get started. So my goal for you today is, well, let's see if I can move my presentation forward. That would be good. There we go. My goal for you today is to show the importance of reaching product market fit and doing it very, very quickly. Because as we know, the faster you get there, the faster you've figured out the formula. And that's what we're going to focus on today. Again, for those of you who are just walking in, there is a workbook that goes with the session. Go download it so you don't have to take a ton of notes. Very quickly, as Ali mentioned, I'm a CTO, startup tech advisor, and creator of Tech Speak for Entrepreneurs, which is an online program where I teach the most effective and efficient ways to manage tech teams, manage projects using lean and agile methodologies. And the process that I use is a 10-step process. We're going to learn at the end of this is going to be the last section of the presentation. So stay tuned for that. What's the most important thing for you to know is that I have been managing tech teams and projects for over 18 years, and I have refined and optimized my process over time. And I taught my Tech Speak 10-step process, which is based on lean and agile methodologies, to over 1,200 students so far, and worked with hundreds of different startups, helping them with their tech strategies and helping them fix and optimize their processes. So this is where we're going today. First, we're going to learn what is product market fit. I feel like there's so many definitions. Everybody defines it differently. Today, I'm going to define it the way I define it. And then we are going to learn about a method of reaching product market fit quickly. In there, we're also going to talk a lot about metrics and how to define your MVPs properly so that you can reduce the cost and time of development, a framework for releasing code more often so you can learn a lot faster, and a tactic that you can use to improve your product really, really quickly. And then I'll share with you how to work with me for those of you who are interested, and we'll get down into the live Q&A, and I'll answer any of the questions that you might have. As we go through the presentation, I want this to be interactive. I'm going to be asking you questions, so you can type them in the chat. If there is a question about anything that I'm saying right now on the screen, like when we talk about metrics, a lot of questions usually come up. Feel free to type those in. Most of the questions I'm going to leave to the end, just so that we can go through the material, and then I'll answer whatever questions that you may have. All right, so what is product market fit? There's obviously the product side and there's the market side. On the market side, you need to do two things. The first thing is to identify the exact early adopter customer who has the biggest pain point for the problem that you solve. And of course, you also need to validate that the customer problems are actually real. They're big enough to ensure that the pain point is valid. And the most important thing that I think a lot of entrepreneurs, where they make the mistake, is that it's not high enough. It's not a level 12 out of 10 problem. They're focusing on level 5 or 6 problems. And the other important thing for you to do on the market side is to determine, are people willing to pay you with time or money, and ideally both, to solve the problem? Because you could be solving a really high pain point for people, and maybe you've identified a really high pain point. But if whoever you're targeting either doesn't have the money or the funding or to be able to pay you to use the services, then you have to be able to find a different customer who either can pay you, or you have to maybe not solve that problem or maybe make it a non-for-profit, right? But otherwise, it's not a business. In order to build a business, you have to figure out who's going to be willing to pay you for that, to deliver that product and service. So the key here and the goal is to find out that people are willing to pay you with either time, and if they're paying you with time, that means your business model is going to be advertising, right? And or money. And ideally, you want both. And when I work with entrepreneurs, as I mentioned earlier, I find that most people solve level 5 or 6 problems. And when you do the market side really, really well, what I'm suggesting that you do is find level 12 out of 10 problems. Those are the painkiller problems that people actually need solving, because the higher the pain point, the more likely customers will be willing to pay you with time or money, and ideally both. That's what you're trying to do on the market side. And once you've identified the problem and the possible solution, you of course need to actually build the product and then refine the product that will solve the pain points that you've identified from your market side. And there are 3 things that you need to focus on the product side. The first thing is to refine your value proposition. What does this mean? You need to answer questions like, what makes you unique? Why should people pick you over the competition? And are you clearly communicating the value to your potential customers? These are the 3 things that you need to iterate on and refine over and over again until you are able to clearly communicate the value proposition to your customers in a way that they resonate with. This is really, really important to get right, because even if you're able to create a product that solves a painkiller problem, if you're not able to communicate it effectively in a way that your customers actually understand and resonate with, so that they can see the value that you're providing, they will not buy, right? So we're always constantly going and iterating on both sides, the market and the product, and really understanding, are we actually talking about our product in a way where they actually feel the pain, that they get it, that they see the value. The second thing you need to do is to actually build the exact combinations of features that solve your customer needs and keep them coming back to using your product over and over again. This is where a lot of people get stuck. They build their MVP and they say, yay, we did it. The key is to continue to refine the product until you have the exact combination of features and functionalities that will make your product delightful. So launching the MVP is just the first step. You need to continue to learn, refine, and iterate on the product over and over again until you find the exact features and functionalities that will provide value to your customers so that they actually continue to be a customer and they're happy to pay you. Yes, I actually said happy to pay you with time or money to use your product, because you're actually solving real problems for them. And finally, you need to make sure that you are refining your product's user experience, and you need to make sure that your product is intuitive and is easy to use. And once you've found the exact combination of the target market that is willing to use your product on a regular basis and is also willing to pay you for it, you've found product market fit. You have found the formula for acquiring customers in a cost-effective way and are also willing to pay you for the product or service to use it, right? So to get to product market fit faster, you need to increase your product velocity in your startup. And contrary to its name, product velocity is not just about building a product quickly. That's a big mistake that a lot of people think, that it's all about the product. Product velocity is the CEO's ability to align their entire startup to focus on the right goals at the right time, so you can quickly and efficiently learn who is the exact target market that is willing to use your product on a regular basis and is also willing to pay you for it. It's about your entire team, your tech, your marketing, your sales, your business development, and everyone else who's involved, being able to work together and execute quickly in an iterative way to actually build a business around the product idea. Not just building the product, but to build a business around the product. And that involves your company being able to iterate both on the product and the market side at exactly the same time. Most startup founders that I work with focus on the product side only. They build what they think is the perfect product and then go looking for the market that wants it. This is called the solution searching for a problem. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but it always makes me laugh, right? And it's the most inefficient way of doing things. If you're able to do both things at the same time, that is how you're going to be able to get to product market fit a lot faster. Does that make sense? Type yes in the chat if you're all with me. Julie says a lot of people make that joke about Web3. Absolutely, because now everybody is now creating the same thing. All the products that exist in Web 2, they now all of a sudden need to be decentralized. But that's not always the case, right? So it's a good point. Absolutely. So we now know that we need to iterate. But how do we know what to iterate on? What is the actual thing that we're doing? And what will help us are metrics. Why are metrics important? Who can tell me? Type your answer in the chat. Why are metrics important? I'll wait. Who can tell me? Are you guys using metrics in your startups right now? Why would anybody use metrics? John says to understand the market feedback and activity. Absolutely. Very good. But metrics are actually going to help us when it comes to product market fit to know if you are hitting, if you're actually need to change direction, to ask a question or pivot, right? We're going to talk about the baseline metrics that you can use as a guide to know that you're close to achieving product market fit. These are the minimums that you should be able to hit. And if you're not hitting them, those are your signs that you need to check in, that you need to change something, that you need to refine something, or you need to revisit and understand why you're not hitting those metrics. And something either on the product side or the market side needs to be refined, right? Wasim said accountability. Absolutely. So many founders that I work with, especially in the early days, they decide to go on a direction and they have no accountability. They don't understand what to track to even know if they're going in the wrong direction or in the right direction, because that's the goal. And so 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, sometimes 2 years down the line, they haven't found product market fit because they weren't focused on when to change direction. So when you are thinking about metrics, and the reason why metrics are so important is because they will help you understand, are you on the way to product market fit? And if you're not, those are your signs. Those are your clues that you need to do to be able to change something, experiment with something new, etc. Does that make sense? All right, so let's talk about metrics. I've broken down the metrics by different business models. And if your startup has multiple business models, then of course you need to track different metrics for each one. So if you're targeting the enterprise and you have enterprise customers, this is the baseline metric that you should use and know to know that you're reaching product market fit. 70% of your trials should convert into annual contracts after 30 days. Okay, and again, this is the baseline, which means the minimum. So if you have 80% of your trials converting into annual contracts after 30 days, that's even better. And why are we talking about annual contracts? Is because most enterprise customers, they want to sign annual contracts. So it's the sales cycle is always longer, but once you get them, you usually have them for multiple years. Okay, so if you're in the enterprise, this is the metric you need to focus on. If you're in the consumer space, right? You're selling one-off products directly to consumers. And it doesn't matter if you're B2B or B2C, these are some of the baseline metrics that you should be using. 30% of your users are active after sign up. Active users means that your users are meaningfully engaging and using your product on some regular basis. This can be defined by you based on the type of product that you have, but in general, you should have your users coming back to using your app 3 out of the 7 days. This is how sticky your product needs to be. And what does it mean when your users are coming back every single day to using your product? Who can tell me? What does it mean, and why is that good? What does it mean when your users are coming back every single day to use your product? Jump in the chat and let me know. Julie says you're solving the problem they have. Absolutely. Absolutely. It means that the problem you're trying to solve for them is actually being solved. You're such an important part of their life that you got them hooked. It means that you have found a problem, a painkiller problem that is worth solving. And that's why this is such an important metric to keep track of. There's a great book called Hooked, right? And once you get your customers hooked on using your product, you are a part of their life. And that's why they're more likely to continue to use your product, because you're actually a part of their daily life. And they're not going to cancel their subscriptions or stop using your product. Okay, great. Next, you want to be able to have, for every 5,000 users, 100 organic signups per day. This indicates a high Net Promoter Score, also known as NPS. And that means that users are recommending your product to others. And what does it mean for your business when your existing users are recommending your product to their circle of contacts, friends, and family? Who can tell me? What does it mean for your business?
Growth.
Growth. Okay. What else? What kind of growth? Julie says scalability. Yeah.
Right.
Well, for me, from the business perspective, it means that you don't need to spend time and money acquiring these users, right? This metric allows you to predictably know that when you get X number of users, you will actually get a percentage of new users for free, which is great, right? There's no user acquisition fees that you need to think about. Great. So you should also have identified a path to 100,000 users. So you don't have to have the answer of how you're going to get there. But if you're not getting there fast enough at whatever pace that you decided to set for yourself, that's a problem, right? What are you going to do? What are you going to do if you're not hitting it?
You're going to look at the metrics, and then you're going to study about what features are having gaps.
Yeah, you're going to pivot. You're going to, when you're not hitting your metrics, you're going to need to just look at whether the metric, whether it's the product, whether it's, right? You need to go back and analyze what is broken, what can you do, what other experiments can you run to be able to get there a lot faster. Does that make sense? And by the way, I think we're small enough as a group that you can just unmute yourself and we could just have a conversation. So it's going to be a lot faster than typing. All right. So the last thing you need to do to think about is having a viral loop. It's always great if you have a viral loop, also known as having a positive K factor in your product. So K factor is a metric that reveals your app's virality by measuring how many additional users each of your existing users bring along to the app. And to have a positive K factor, you need more than one person that someone invites to sign up and become active, and then continue this cycle. One example of a product that has positive K factor is Slack, right? Slack is a product that we all use and know. And when you create a Slack account, you can't really use Slack by yourself. You have to invite at least one person to use it with you. Slack has a positive K factor built into the product. The product is not valuable without other people. Same thing with Facebook and any other social network. right? So when you're building your products, can you intentionally plan to build in any kind of positive K factors so it becomes valuable to be used with other people? And then again, you can predictably get new users into your app for free, which is great for your business. So if you're selling directly to consumers, these are some of the baseline metrics you need to hit to know you're heading on your way to product market fit. All right, some baseline metrics for product market fit if you're building a SaaS product. So SaaS stands for software as a service, and it's any kind of subscription service, right? Not just in software, but you can have any kind of subscription boxes or any kind of physical goods that are also on a subscription basis. B2B, B2C, doesn't matter. These are some of the metrics you want to look at. So you want to have at least 5% conversion rate from free to paid. A lot of products, subscription products, have free tier plans, and you need to be able to effectively convert free trials and or users into paid users. And your baseline metric is at least 5% conversion rate from free to paid. You also want to know, the ratio between lifetime customer lifetime value, which is also known as LTV, and customer acquisition cost, which is also known as CAC, needs to be 3 times lifetime value to customer acquisition cost ratio. So what this means is that it's costing you 3 times less to acquire your customers than the amount of money that you make from them during the time that they are a customer with you. I'll give you an example so you can visualize this better. Let's say it's costing you $500 to acquire a customer. When you think about it, $500 seems like a lot of money to spend to get a customer. But if over the lifetime that the person is a customer with you, you're making $1,500 from that customer, then spending $500 to acquire that customer is actually acceptable according to this formula. So when you're looking at your metrics, you have to make sure that it's costing you 3 times less to acquire your customers than the amount of money that you make from those customers over the time that they're a customer with you. And in the early days, you need to approximate your customer lifetime value and refine as you get more data. So I'll give you a dating app example. So if you have a dating app, your customer lifetime value is probably about 4 months. So the user comes and joins you. They're probably looking for a partner for 4 months. Then they find a partner. They date them for about 3 to 4 months, and then they're coming back because they probably broke up with that person. Cynical view, but most likely realistic, right? So that's how you would need to look at your data and then decide what is our customer lifetime value. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, great. So you also want to be able to see less than 2% churn, monthly churn. Churn means that your customers are continuing to renew your product subscription and not canceling, okay? Churn is a very, very important metric to track in SaaS companies. If you're in SaaS, you know this metric. You should be. And if you have less than 1% churn, then you have an incredible SaaS business. So what does it mean when you have very little churn? Who can tell me?
You're not having to spend more money to market to get new customers.
Absolutely. What else?
It also means I think the features are working.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Julie?
I was just the same thing I said before. You're solving people's problems. You're doing a good job of solving that pain point.
Absolutely. If you have very little churn, that means you've become a part of their life. They see the value in what you're building for them. So they are much more likely to continue to renew over and over and over again. And your lifetime customer value is going to increase, right? So that's why this is so, so important. And finally, having a clear path to 100,000 customers in monthly, $100,000 in monthly recurring revenue. This is also known as MRR. Okay, so if you have a SaaS product, these are some baseline metrics you need to hit to know you're on the way to product market fit. And again, if you're not, you need to continue to refine your product, your value proposition, your user experience, until you reach some of these baseline metrics. No matter what methodology you use to determine if you've reached product market fit, to reach this milestone is really, really important, because what this means is that you have now a repeatable way of acquiring customers in a cost-effective way, and that you are now ready to scale your business. And this is also an optimal time to raise venture capital money, so you can pour gasoline on the fire to actually grow a lot faster, because you figured out the formula. You know that it's costing us X amount of dollars to acquire customers. From there, we can get X number of customers, right? And you have a predictable way to grow. So if you can get a ton of money from a venture capital and put money behind something that you already know that's working, right, you can scale a lot faster. So the funny thing is, and I always laugh about this, especially early stage entrepreneurs, is that most people think and hope that their product market fit journey is going to look like this. A straight line to success, right? And it's only going to take us 6 months to get there. How many of you are guilty of that? Which I sure was, right? Most people think like that. But the reality is that your path is going to look like this. And it usually takes more than 1 to 2 years to reach if you're lucky, right? If you are very tight with this process, you can get there a lot faster. Most people, it takes up to 5 years to be able to get there. Okay, so here you see the frequent pivots that you might have to do. Some would be small, some would be large. Most of your pivots should be small. And with small pivots, you will be focused on optimizing your product for retention, making sure that you're communicating the value of your product and features quickly enough and improving the overall experience of your product. And it's all about understanding what new features and improvements to the product experience and functionality would make the product stickier. So more and more of your existing customers use your product on a regular basis, and also recommend and refer new users to you. The big pivots are the most painful and time-consuming, and of course, the most expensive ones. This is where you might realize that you need to target a different customer and or a different industry, or sometimes you might realize you need to solve a totally different problem altogether. Hopefully, you won't have to do more than a few big pivots, but that's the reality, right? This is what your product market fit journey will look like. So now that we know how important it is to get a product market fit quickly, the question is, how do we actually do it, right? What is the process for getting there? And I'm going to teach you my 10-step process. But first, we need to understand the 2 core pillars that are a part of my product development process. And without these 2 core pillars, everything I'm going to teach you in the 10 steps is not going to work. So the first pillar is learn early, learn often, and learn cheap. And the second pillar is executing ideas the lean way. So learning quickly is really, really important, because the faster you learn something, the faster you will learn if you head it in the right direction. You don't want to spend a ton of time and money going in the wrong direction, as we just discovered, right? The longer you go in the wrong direction, the harder and more expensive it would be for you to turn around and go in a different direction. And what's the difference between the lean versus the classic way of building products? Well, let's analyze the classic way of building products, because that's what most people do. Okay, in a classic way, you come up with your idea, you get excited about the possibilities, and you start painting the picture in your head about how this new shiny functionality will change everything for the business. And the more you think about the possibilities, the more incredible and flawless your idea becomes, and the more excited that you get. Who is guilty of that? Right? Most of us. We fall in love with our ideas way too much. So what do? You're so excited. You put all of the resources behind building this amazing product and amazing functionality. It could be a new product, it could be a new feature, anything, right? We do this all the time, this bias towards falling in love with something that we came up with. And so you spend 2 to 6 months to a year building in secret, because you don't want anyone to steal your idea, and then you launch. So you've just committed 6 months to a year or even more of money, time, and resources, and then you get feedback. You may have hit it exactly on the nail, and maybe it is an amazing success that you imagined in your head. But what most often happens is that you might realize that no one buys, or not many people buy, or that it was a problem not worth solving, or you built the wrong solution, or so many ors. Well, this approach is like shooting arrows at a target with blinders on. It is a big bet, and it's too high of a risk. It's slow to market, it has zero customer validation, and it's very, very expensive. On the other hand, we have lean that uses scientific methodology of hypothesis, test, learn, revise to determine what works with a lot less waste. In a lean process, every single brilliant idea that you have, every single one of them is actually a hypothesis. It is an assumption that has to be proven right or wrong by talking to your customers and getting insightful feedback, which allows you to learn whether your hypothesis is valid or if it needs to be revised. And then you create a new hypothesis that needs to be tested again. And everything drops into a lean development cycle. Hypothesis, test, learn, revise. Hypothesis, test, learn, revise. And the goal for your team is to minimize the total time through the loop by learning as quickly as possible. This word learning keeps coming up over and over again. And we discussed the importance of learning quickly. The faster you learn something, the faster you will learn if you head it in the right direction. So basically, in the lean way of building products, your startup is actually a series of well-designed experiments that you are constantly testing so you can adjust your path to success. And this is the key. The smaller your experiments are, the faster you can test and learn whether something is working or not. So instead of taking this long approach to figure out whether something works or not, we're taking small steps to get to success faster. And now I hope you can see how these two pillars are necessary to getting to success faster without wasting time and effort going in the wrong direction. And I want you to think about how you can use and leverage these two pillars to get to product market fit faster. How can you minimize your learning time? How can you build less code? How can you launch faster? How can you make your team more efficient at executing? Because all of these things will help you iterate a lot faster. It'll help you learn a lot faster so you can reach product market fit faster. So does that make sense? Okay, so let's go through. For those of you who walked in later, I'm going to drop the link in the chat for downloading the workbook. Notes, right? This is just the summary of the notes. All right, so let's learn. Sorry, when I type in the chat, my presentation goes away. All right, so let's learn the TechSpeak 10-step process. This is the actual process that I use and teach, which will allow you to learn early, learn often, and learn cheap so you can efficiently iterate through the product development process and optimize your team so that they execute like a well-oiled machine. All right, so step one is validate. This is where you will refine all of your ideas. As we mentioned, every idea is what? Every idea is what?
A hypothesis.
A learning process.
A hypothesis. Yes, every idea is a hypothesis. So it needs to be validated. You don't assume anything about it, right? It has to be validated. Validation will help you identify the target customer, validate that the customer problem is really, really big, and refine your idea to make sure that it is a painkiller. It's not enough to have good ideas for products and features and functionalities. Your ideas, every single one of them, must solve some kind of problem, painkiller problem, and not be a vitamin. Because if people just want what you're building but don't actually need it, you will always have a much, much harder time getting your customers to use and pay for your products and services. The number one reason why products and features fail to be adopted, it is not because they couldn't be built, but because no one wanted them in the first place. And a lot of people make the mistake, if they do validation at all, is to only do validation at the beginning when they just come up with the idea. But what I'm saying is that every single idea for a new feature or functionality, no matter how large or small, before you build it, has to go through this validation process, because that will help you really refine and understand, is this actually solving painkiller problems, or is this only solving a level 4 or 5 problem? Is this feature or functionality worth building? And is it going to add value to the overall product that I'm building for my customers, right? Because there's so many, at some point, your product will become so bloated that it will actually take away the happiness and the value. So you need to be so conscious and conscientious of what you put into the product so that it doesn't get bloated. And you would refine your ideas through a process called customer development. Customer development is not about asking your potential customers whether they like your idea or if they will buy your product. It is about extracting information from potential customers that will help you validate the need for the solution that your product will provide. It's about listening. It's about learning and discovering what they need, how they work, what their pain points are, what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do, and what are their highest priorities. Even if you already have a product in the market with paying customers, you could have two different customer segments that have the same exact problem, but their needs could be completely different, and therefore you should solve the same exact problem for these two different customer segments in a completely different way. And founders always tell me, yes, I talk to customers, but if your questioning is not aligned with specific hypotheses that you want to test, then you're missing out on real nuances and gems that can help you refine your understanding of the problem and therefore help you build the best solution to address those problems. Proper and focused customer discovery and validation will ensure that every new feature and functionality solves a pain point and will prevent you from building a lot of technology for technology's sake. Over the years, I probably witnessed the millions of lines of code that were written that were never used by people. And if you need something to keep you accountable, check out this website called startupgraveyard.io. I always use it as a way to motivate me to do this process because there's so many startups who build, but don't actually understand, are they solving real problems? Customer discovery, customer development will also allow you to understand how to market and sell to your customers, how to acquire customers, your sales and business model, and so much more. It will literally define the market side of your product market fit scenario that we talked about in the beginning of the presentation. Okay, this is all about validation. So step 2 is prototype. And here is where you're going to be refining your solution. And here I'm talking about clickable prototypes. And because instead of jumping into code, I want you to create clickable prototypes. By the way, writing code is a way of prototyping, but it is the most expensive way to doing so. Clickable prototypes are on the other side of the cost spectrum. Not only is refining solutions using clickable prototypes cheaper and faster than writing code, it will also help you test multiple solutions before you write code, right? If you have an idea of how to solve a problem, you can create 2 clickable prototypes very quickly, go and test them with your customers and see what is the ultimate solution that you need to do. And it could be a combination of your 2 ideas, or you may need to scrap them all together, right? It's going to save you so much time and money from recoding later. It is a lot cheaper and faster to rapidly change prototypes than it is to rewrite code. And just guessing what solution will resonate with your customers will always result in rewriting code and take more time. So Adobe XD, Figma, Sketch, Marvel app, InVision, all of these are tools that you can use to build clickable prototypes. And that's something that you can easily add into your process if you are not doing that yet. Okay, steps number 3 to 7 is where you were going to plan and prepare for development. And again, instead of building your entire idea, you need to define a minimal viable version of the prototype that you created in step 2 for that specific idea. And what most people do is reduce the number of features from, let's say, 20 to 4, but that's not enough. Have you ever wondered how the same exact project can be estimated to cost $10,000 and $50,000, and both estimates could be completely legitimate? Think about that. It's because the details of what and how you build something matters a lot. You must plan your MVPs based on your time and your cost constraints, so you can quickly launch something quickly and inexpensively, and don't build more than you have to. And in order for this to work, your development teams, whether they're in-house or outsourced, they need to be trained in how to build products the lean way. Your team needs to understand how to make decisions from learn early, learn often, learn cheap perspective. And most technical people are very, very uncomfortable in doing this. They want to be able to build the perfect solution that scales to millions of users, or use the shiny new technology that they want to learn and get experience in, which is not necessarily the right thing for your business at that point in time. Okay. Your goal is to run an experiment and get this solution, right? To get the answer. Am I headed in the right direction? Right? That's what you are optimizing for. And what you need to do is figure out what's the minimal viable thing that you can launch with as quickly as possible. And then, of course, refine, scale, and iterate from there. And if you're not working with teams who know this process, it's very important for you as the CEO to first learn this process and then make it a part of your culture and hire and or train everyone on your team, because this is the only way you can make this work. I just onboarded a team of 10 people because they used to use the traditional way of building products and now want to transition to this lean and agile way. By learning in parallel as a team, they can hit the ground running a lot faster. And by the way, not everyone is well suited for this type of culture of constant learning, constant experimentation, and uncertainty. So if you already have a team and find that certain people are not a fit, you might have to replace them with someone who is. I've actually had this problem before where we were implementing this process and we just, no matter how much training we gave to certain people, they just were not well suited for this. And it's very, very important for you as a CEO to create a company culture with this mindset, okay? Steps 8 and 9 is all about managing the coding and development process so that you can actually deliver the code to your customers. This is where you will need to use agile project management to make sure that you can deploy code quickly and efficiently and have the flexibility to be able to adjust your product roadmap if the need arises. And the idea here is to increase the rate at which you are releasing new product features and or improved functionality. I get you from releasing every 3 to 6 months to every 2 weeks if you're not using agile, to then 1 week to even multiple times a day product releases. Why? Because launching early and often allows you to learn and iterate a lot faster. We're actually optimizing our team and our process so we're not spending too much time and money going in the wrong direction. And the more tighter your team and process are, the better you are going to be executing, okay? It shortens your learning time through this hypothesis, test, learn, revise system that we talked about at the beginning, okay? And finally, step number 10, it's all about setting up behavior analytics so you can actually, instead of guessing, use data to make product improvement decisions. So this is where you will need to implement analytics and start to collect user behavior data that will help you learn how your users use your product, what features and functionalities they use the most, what delights them and what makes them frustrated, what brings them back to using your application over and over again, and why they might not be coming back as often as you'd like. All of these data points will help you make decisions. Which one of your existing features need to be improved and how? What new features and functionalities would make the product stickier so more and more of your existing customers use your product on a regular basis, and also recommend and refer new users to you. Data-driven decision-making to improving your product is absolutely transformational because, again, instead of guessing what exact features to focus on to get more users to use your product, you will have data that will inform you on what next functionality that you should be testing and implementing, which of course prevents you from spending a lot of resources and time building the wrong things. So in step 1, we're validating your idea's riskiest assumptions with a small set of your customers. Here in step 10, we're now scaling our learning with a bigger subset of our customers. And from the data that you collect, you'll get ideas on how to improve your product. Okay, so these ideas that you get on how to improve your product are what? Are these ideas that you're going to look at and say, hey, these are great. I know how to improve my product, and I'm going to just go into step number 8 and 9 and code and deploy? What are these ideas? Who can tell me?
New hypotheses.
Yes, these are new hypotheses. You hit it right on the money, John, right? These are hypotheses. These are assumptions that we need to test, right? And learn the nuances to make sure that the idea is actually a painkiller and it's going to provide the value to our overall customer base. And then you can take these validated ideas for improvements and start prototyping and so on. And that's how you take all of your ideas, large and small, continuously through this 10-step process. All of these steps will allow you to learn early, learn often and learn cheap. It'll help you minimize mistakes, miscommunications, missed deadlines, and minimize waste. And of course, save you time and money. And by learning early and often, you will actually increase your chances of hitting success and reach product market fit a lot faster. And by the way, this is how much money you can save in product development costs if you use this learn early, learn often, learn cheap process. $124,000 for each new release if you have one developer. And the costs go astronomical as your team size increases. I actually have a free training that if you can check out called How to Cut Your Product Development Costs by Up to 50% on my website. And that's where I go into each one of the steps and actually do the calculation. So if you want to see how I came up to this number. But there's a lot of costs and money that you're leaving on the table if you're not using these methodologies, because in addition to not actually reaching product market fit faster, the longer it takes you to get there, the more expensive it is. Does that make sense? All right, let's do a quick recap of what you've learned so far, and then we'll get into the Q&A. So what did you learn? We first learned that reaching product market fit quickly is really, really important because now we are ready to scale. We also learned to use the lean way of building products to learn faster and iterate to success, to validate and prototype all of your ideas so you don't build more than you need, to optimize your MVPs, to reduce the cost and time of development so you can launch and learn faster, implement an efficient agile framework so you can release code more often than every 2 weeks and learn faster, and use data-driven decision-making to improving your products. And I'd love to know what has resonated with you the most from all of these steps, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all or what combination of the 6. And then we'll go into the Q&A. Let me know.
I have a question.
Yes.
Our business is bringing feedstock to.
Terry, can you move closer to the microphone so I can hear you a little bit better?
How about that?
Okay,
hear
it's
me?
a little better. Yep.
Okay. We develop engineering solutions for feedstock deficits in the industries. So right now, we don't get into a lot of code because we don't have, we're kind of like a turtle. You know, we kind of move slow, but we end up getting to where we want to go. Well, what we've got is a lot of data that we want to leverage for capital, because we don't have with your and I really appreciate what you're doing because it's really interesting. It reminds me 50 years ago what I was doing with product. You know, how do I keep product on a shelf without creating new product that disrupts what I haven't sold yet that's still on the shelf? So that product shelf replacement issue, which is great. I mean, that's really brought to me why. As an example with Apple. So my question is that how, as an engineering company that develops these niche solutions, that right now, for example, we created a way to take down entire compounds, elements, take some of those compounds, put them back in the market supply, like carbon black, which is the anode for the battery. And the United States doesn't produce any graphite. We have to import 100%. But without the anode, without the graphite, you don't have a battery. So what happens to the EV market? What happens to energy storage? It collapses with a heartbeat. And so we've kind of carved out this little crack that we can fill. And what I'm trying to deal with here now is raising, because it's not like building a cell phone or an app for a cell phone. It's building, the prototypes are in millions of dollars.
Right.
Because they deal with big volumes and they deal with utilities and commodities where we don't really have to go sell. All we have to do is deliver to the market. Now, the connection is how do I get the optic and the venture capital or the enterprises that want to invest in to see that vision, so they understand that they could win this way at a ground level and then capitalize on the X's as the scale goes, because the scale has no place to go but up, because right now there's no there's no delivery in the market. And we're really counting on our enemies to supply our needs. And I don't think that's a good plan.
So is the question, how do you do this for hardware or non-software products?
Enterprise.
Yeah.
It's all feedstock. For example, we take a recycling solution that we've created in a market that has no solution, that's been doing the same thing for 40 years, bring it back into the market as a commodity that the market needs, has a high demand for, but no supply, and is always in a deficit situation. And how to get the investment groups to come in and say, okay, we want to take it to your next phase. Well, the next phase is not $125,000. Next
Right.
phase is $8 to $10 million. And then
Well,
it goes crazy.
Yeah, and okay, so I'm gonna address this as best as I can because your situation is very unique. It's the same as in bioengineering or anything
Right.
In the medicine, right? You
Right.
need to talk to the right investors because if you're building a software product, to be able to do this really quickly, build a prototype is a lot faster. It's a lot cheaper. By the way, I've seen this process being used in hardware products and it works, right? It's this whole mindset of how can we do this cheaper? What other things that we can use on the market that can help us prove some kind of traction before we start pitching? Because every time you have a little bit of traction or something you can show, then you're de-risking the opportunity for the investors, right? So in general, when you're in these types of markets, it's very important to talk to investors that understand your industry and they can see the potential and the vision without you having to actually produce something workable, right? And this is a question I get a lot from people in the medical space because it does take the trials, and that's why there are some investors who only work in that space, and that's what I would encourage you to seek out. And if there is no such thing, it's very hard, right? You need to be able to communicate the value. You can show some kind of data, some kind of stats that can actually support what you are saying, and that it's not just a claim. Does that make sense?
No, and we've done that. In fact, you brought up all the hard points that we've had to overcome. Our first initiation was, before we even started, was what barriers are we going to run into? Federal, state,
Right.
permit compliance, the whole gamut. But the one issue seems to be that in the waste management industry, a lot of people are running toward that as an investment. That seems to be our biggest barrier, which you would think that if we can get rid of the environmental nuisance, convert the environmental nuisance into a profit center, and has scale for as long as life exists, that you would have people, going into their piggy banks and bringing out the pennies and nickels to get in.
Right.
Not the case.
So Terry, I'm going to stop you there for a second because I want to wrap up. I know probably a lot of people will leave in about 2 minutes, so I just want to make sure that we finish up here. And if there's any other questions, and then I'm happy to talk to you offline about that. Okay?
Yeah, that'd be great. If you just shoot me in, or I get an email or something like that, I'd love to talk to you about it.
Nelly@techspeak.co is my email.
Is that NELLE?
NELLY. Yeah, I'll drop it in the
NELLY?
chat.
Text dot.
Techspeak.co. I'll drop it in the chat.
Thank you.
All right. So next steps for those of you who are interested in checking out and getting the frameworks and the step-by-step, if you don't want to do the trial and error and you want someone to guide you through this process, I teach it. It's an online training paired with coaching. There's a special exclusive offer for Thunder VC people in the download if you want to check it out. And you can learn it really quickly in just 2 days. So go on the website, check it out. It's a resource for you. That's what techspeak.co does. And there's a lot of free trainings there as well. How to cut your product development costs by up to 50% is one probably that's going to be the most relevant for you if you want to see the breakdown of the costs that I have created for you. All right. So I don't know if there's any other questions from anyone else. Feel free to just unmute yourself and let me know.
Thank you very much, Nelly. It was very helpful. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
This was great. Definitely feel like I have had all my mistakes read back to me, and I feel actually a lot better about what we're doing now.
And it's funny when you mentioned that we're shifting, right? And it's so much more painful because you guys meet a completely different shift, right? The brand new product almost, right?
But it made so much sense, and we're seeing that it was the right thing. Like just during this call, someone else signed up. So
Right.
very cool.
Absolutely. Yep. And being at the right time at the right place, right? The Web3 is becoming a new thing. So there's not a ton of tools already. So you're already not competing with the previous idea, which was just the general no code platform, right? So I'm glad that you guys made that pivot because it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, would love to catch up if you have some time. Maybe I could give you more information. So
sure. Yeah. There's a call. You can schedule a call. Go to techspeak.co and there's a link at the top of the page to schedule a call. So feel free to do that.
Will do. Thank you so much. This was great.
You're welcome.
Gotta jump to my next one.
I appreciate it.
Bing, you have a question?
Sorry, I came late.
You came in late?
I know, I missed it. Sorry about that. Will you be sharing the recording with us?
I don't know if they recorded. Ali, did you record the session?
I did. So we'll post it in the Founder Slack community channel.
Okay, great.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have
Yeah.
questions before we sign out? Looks like no. All right. Awesome. You're welcome, Ruby.